This panel, give it up for New York Times best-selling author of the Witchlings series, Anne Frizzy. Give it up for Claribel Ortega.
Hi, guys. How are you? Who's sweaty right now? Oh, thank you. I just got here, so I'm good. Okay, so am I introducing them as they come out, or are we just sure, okay, we'll do it. No problem. Oh, thank you. Hi. Give me one moment. Okay, so we have an amazing panel of authors today. I'm so excited to talk about all things YA and new adult fantasy. First, we have Tracy Deonn, who is the #1 New York Times bestselling and award-winning author of the Legendborn cycle.
Yes.
All right, now we have Analeigh Sbrana, is a Sunday Times bestselling author of Lore of the Wilds, known for weaving lyrical prose with thrilling plot twists and captivating main characters. Her novels explore complex themes of betrayal, justice, and the nuance of love. Finally, we have Jordan Ifueko, the New York Times bestselling author of the Raybearer series. She's a Nebula Award, Ignite Award, Audie Award, and Hugo Lodestar finalist. All right, so now that we're all here, hi everyone.
Hi.
I'm excited to talk about writing and craft, and I thought a really good place to start would be asking where you start. How do you start a novel? Do you start with the characters? Do you start with the setting, themes, or something else? And you guys don't have to go in any particular order. You can just answer whoever feels comfortable first.
I'll go. So I always start with character. To me, the character and what they want, and the ways in which they're going to go about getting what they want that are wrong until they figure out the right way to get what they want. That is the beating heart of the story. And then I do a lot of my world building and even a lot of my character building for secondary or tertiary characters is built around supporting that main character. I think that, to me, the character arc is like the arrow or the engine for the story, and then I try very hard to create structures to support that journey. And then after that's done, that's when I throw in extra bits of world building that are just like fandom fodder or visuals or scenes that I know I really, really want to do. I come from theater, and yeah, woo, yes, theater folks. So I think in terms of stage pictures often, and I think in terms of like what's the visual that I want, or big set pieces, like what's the big battle, what does it look like? But all of that has to be in service to the arc.
So I think, like a lot of us perhaps in this room, as a child I did a spot of maladaptive daydreaming and continue to do so to this day. And what that ends up being is you have a need that is not being met, and so you make up stories to meet that need. And I'm realizing that is where a lot of my inspiration for my stories really comes from. I love reading, so I have like the tools, of plot and character and development to make those stories have a lot of structure and interesting things. But I think I can honestly say everything I've written started from an emotional need I had that I wanted to explore. And that makes it really easy to keep a theme throughout the story. And sometimes I didn't even know the theme I was exploring until I'm very well into the book. You know, with the Raybearer series, I think I was dealing with a lot of like family trauma and loneliness. But if I pitched the Raybearer series, you know, it would be, you know, the whole like, oh, magical kingdom, shared minds, found family, that kind of thing. So I think that really is consistently what comes first, is what emotional need am I trying to meet? Sometimes that's an issue. With My Maid and the Crocodile, it's very much like labor rights, working class, and it was a lot of anger I had at realizing that the system is working as intended, which is exploitative, and I needed a place I could really explore that. So unmet needs, I think, is what comes first.
My books come from daydreaming as well. I am cursed with an overactive imagination, and I always just come up with my character first, my main female character, and it's often just me trying to figure out who she is, what's she looking for, what does she need, what is she lacking. And I'm a discovery writer, so I don't plot at all. My first draft is me telling myself the story, which is really fun sometimes, but it also means I have so many revisions to do all the time. It's just me rewriting and changing things and moving things around. But that's how I do it. It's just kind of chaotic, actually.
All excellent question. Not questions, answers. Well, my questions
It was
are
an
also
excellent question. It was an excellent question.
Thank you.
What do you do, Claribel?
Me, what do I do? Yeah. Oh, I also start with characters. I think I'm similar. My stories are very character driven, so it usually starts with someone who is, well, I write middle grade mostly, an annoying 12-year-old who is much like myself, and then I go from there.
Middle grade is so hard to write. It's really hard.
Because the kids also read the books 200 times, and they know it better than I do, and they're like, you got that wrong. And when you're doing a series, it is so they're so scary. 12-year-olds are so scary. But they love me and I love them. But they will really.
Yes. Okay. No. Look, my first middle grade comes out in a few days.
Woo!
They're released. Thank you. No, I have already had one school visit, so those kids got it early. They are already finding like this 10-year-old came up to me. He's like, I have a hack for how you win the genie game, and I was like, oh Lord. They're so quick.
They are. They're the best. I love them so much.
It's like they don't have any bills to pay, so they're just
Right.
like the parts of their brain that are just like available for that type of thinking.
However, they are very concerned about how much money I make, and when the teachers like don't ask, they're like, fine, what car do you drive?
Oh, that is so clever.
I know. I'm scared of them. Okay, we're gonna focus. So I think writing fantasy is one of the hardest genres to write. There are so many moving parts, and all of your books have like very poignant emotional components. How do you balance like the magic and the adventure while also tackling some of the harder issues that ground your stories in the human experience?
I can say for my debut novel, Lore of the Wilds, thank you. I wrote the emotion in it so intentionally because I wanted to subvert that Black girl trope of, never being in touch with their emotions, or they're unable to be vulnerable and things like that. And I think Lore's strength is her vulnerability. It is her connection to her community, her love. And she's so feminine, and she does cry. She cries in this. Sometimes I was like, girl, you crying again? Like, are you good? And she's like, no, I'm not. And that's your fault. And so that's something that it was just so important to me to do, just have her be feminine and love dresses and go and hunt and forage for mushrooms in the forest. That's how I went through that. And I just told myself like over and over, it's okay if she's emotional. It's okay, because this is what you're doing it on purpose, so.
When I'm invited to go to schools, and sometimes they have me teach workshops to the kids on writing a fantasy story. So a lot of these kids have amazing ideas, dragons and castles, and what if it was this color? And what I tell them is, all of that is incredible, but if you don't know what your main character wants more than anything in the world, in every scene, it's like going through that fantasy world in grayscale. Right? Because once a character has something they want, and I put silly words up on the board, like maybe it's a sandwich, maybe it's a dragon, maybe it's true love, then all of a sudden everything, all of those cool world building details have relevance. Like, is that a beautiful thing or is it an obstacle? Depending on what this character wants. How is that going to affect how they see it, right? And I think that's one way you can keep a reader's attention, is because that's what every person can relate to, is wanting something. Some people really will care about the magic system and the way you breed that particular kind of dragon. Like, nerds exist, I am one of them. But that is that universal beating heart of stories we remember. I find that a lot of people don't, as much as they enjoy the world building of like my Raybearer books and now the Genie Game books, what they come away with are those emotional beats. That's what their minds and their hearts remember.
That was a great answer. These are both great answers, which is a really good segue into me turning to Claribel and saying, what was the question again?
Okay, I said, so how do you balance the magic and adventure of your stories while tackling some of the harder issues that ground your story in the human
Perfect.
experience?
Okay, great. Thank you. No, I really was distracted. I felt it halfway through Jordan's. I was like, I'm losing. This is so good. Okay, so how do I tackle it? Well, for Legendborn, I remember one of my very first instincts was to figure out how I could really put both, like have two gas pedals and have the contemporary and the fantasy be really pushed at the same time. Like, you'll read stories where it's contemporary fantasy and like what happens is you're in the real world for like 2 chapters, and either through a portal or a spell or for whatever, they go to, they have to jump over a cliff and then they land in the magical world, whatever. Then you don't really come back. And so my thing was, how can I keep her grounded in the contemporary world? Because I think there's such power in contemporary fantasy when it's used, when both are really pressed equally. And I knew that I wanted there to be a few layers of antagonistic forces against Bree. We all have sort of our internal antagonisms, internal demons, if you will. And then you have your sort of interpersonal combatants, the people in your life that are just like, that's your op, or whatever. And then you have bigger environmental, atmospheric antagonistic forces against you, whether or not it's like this secret society as a whole, or society as a whole, or you're not supposed to be at this school, or whatever. And I think that I always knew that the contemporary issues that Bree, as a 16-year-old Black girl, would be facing, misogynoir specifically, but misogyny in general, and then racism in general, and ageism, and some other things, classism, these things would be atmospheric. Like, I knew on that level of the antagonistic tree, she needed to always be sort of fighting against that. And what I think is helpful, at least in Legendborn, is that we're centering it on her personal quest. We know her quest. She is encountering racism and misogynoir and all these things as obstacles. They are antagonistic forces. And I really wanted that to be the case and to feel that that was the case, because that's how it is. Like, I don't wake up and think, I'm gonna go and find a racism. I go about my daily business until I encounter a racist, right? And so I think like it should feel that way, at least that was my mission to myself, is that it should feel like it does in the real world, where somebody's got a quest, I'm going to school, I'm going to this job, I'm going to the grocery store, and then this other force meets you, and it's one that has nothing to do with you, but it is out there in the world and you have to face it. And it just so happens that those things are tied with magic, that those things come along with magic, and that those elements of the magic system have to also wrestle with those layers.
Excellent. If there's any writers, I hope you guys are taking notes, because these are some really good points.
I know, someone take notes for me, thanks.
Okay, so sometimes our intended writing days don't always produce actual words, but I'm curious about those days when you do get words on the page, and what that looks like. Can you take us through what a perfect writing day looks like for you?
I was gonna say, oh, is this us making excuses? Because I count Pinterest boards as writing. Anytime I'm making a Pinterest board, I'm like, I'm doing it, I'm writing. This it's a good thing. I think a perfect day for me, I have a daughter, so I take her to school in the morning, and then I come home and I do not doom scroll at all, not even a little bit. Yeah, right. I would be making a latte. The milk would be perfect, and then I'd be at my desk all day. I have my candle lit. I do really try to sometimes romanticize my life. It's something like if you look at my Instagram bio, it says cozy on purpose. I'm always trying to be cozy everywhere I go. And I do actually give myself word counts. So 100% it would be meeting my word count goal, and which can be anywhere from 500 words, because if I'm having a really bad day or a really hectic week, to 4,000. I think the most I've ever written in a day was 10,000. That was insane. It was during NaNoWriMo, and I was like on a roll. Yeah, and also minimal interruptions. That's a big one.
I'm going to be really vulnerable. The fact that a bad day for you is 500 words is still really great. This is my full-time job, and I still have days that are so bad, my word count is 100 words. It can really get that bad when you feel so much pressure. And sometimes it turns out that way because you ended up editing over and over, and you wrote the same sentences over, and you added some stuff over here. So in terms of new words to your story, it's like that money, right? And so I think an actual perfect day for me mentally is one in which I don't feel like a fraud. And sometimes that's because I managed to write thousands of words, and I'm like, oh, I'm killing it. Or I solved a big plot problem, which might be a low word day, but is huge in terms of like progress on the actual book. But also some days it's like ones where I just managed to be really kind to myself. Those feel like really victorious days, you know? It is very hard to separate your identity from this career. And you're encouraged not to do so for most of your life. Like if you say, you want to be a writer and you're a kid and you're good at it, that's how people will literally introduce you as a child. Like, and she writes stories, you know? And that's hard because it means when you can't write, you feel like you're failing at being a person, which is hard. So a great day for me, a perfect one, is one in which I have a healthy relationship with my career. Perfect writing day. Yeah.
I don't have much to add to that because it's so real and it's so vulnerable, and you're so right. And it is not a competition to the bottom, but when there are days and you check your word count and you are in the negatives because you cut stuff that you thought was good 2 days ago, that is a real, you really just sit back from the desk like, okay, can I do this job, or was the last book all I know? You know, that's hard. So being able to see those days for what they are, which is you are clarifying, you are sharpening, you are getting the story, you're getting the engine of the story to move on its own. You're not forcing a scene, you're not forcing a dialogue. Everything is starting to, I just imagine my book sometimes like a skeleton, and I'm just trying to get the bones and get the muscles. And at some point, you like hit that point where it just moves. And you're like, okay, it's moving without me forcing. I'm not having to push it forward. Like I found all the pieces, and these chapters are going, and these characters are going, and I'm able to just help them. So sometimes those days are negative 750 word days. And you're like, well, what'd I do? But then you read it back and you're like, okay, no. That was clarifying. That was good. So having a good balanced relationship and not being attached to word count necessarily is a good thing.
I love that. I actually don't count word count anymore on any of my
It's a
writing.
scam.
Yeah, I go, well, when you're new, it feels so necessary, and
After
sometimes
this, I never
it
will
is.
again.
But now I do chapters or scenes, and that's what I measure my progress by. It's a lot more sustainable for me. Okay, only one bed, enemies to lovers, morally great characters, found family.
There was no intro, Claribel.
Tropes. Tropes are a cornerstone of writing, and these days, promotion for authors too. So what are some of your favorite tropes to explore, or that you want to explore in the future?
I love tropes, and my favorite part about writing my books is I do them accidentally. And I'm always like, oh, of course there's only one bed here. And I'm always surprised. It's never on purpose. It can be. Okay, so I'm actually trying to plot for the first time in my entire life. And I did write down my favorite tropes.
Welcome.
Thank you. It's not going well at all.
Sorry.
Speaking of word counts, I haven't written in like a week. I did my plot and I was like, am I done? This is it, right? I told the whole story. And I did write down my favorite tropes. I am trying to decide, okay, what's gonna go in book 2? My new book, Heir of Prophecy, releases in August. So I'm finishing up book 2 now and trying to figure out what's going on, but it's still as I'm finishing it up. And I would say One Bed is elite, and Touch Her and Die is immaculate, and I love Grumpy Sunshine.
This is hard. I will say I'm going to use this moment to gas up a trope that I'm excited about. I don't know how many of you guys have heard of the wonderful author Jill Tew.
I love her so much.
She's coming out with an adult romance, and instead of only one bed, it's only one body. It's called Headspace. You guys need to follow her right now. I'm very excited to hear more about this. So I'm just gonna start there.
Yay, there she is in the audience.
Is she here? Yay! I have pitched this book so many times. She hasn't announced it yet. I was like jumping the gun. Anyway, I love tropes because the only bad trope is one lazily done. That's a cliche. All stories are made of tropes. I really did love Grumpy Sunshine, and I still do, but I really have started to appreciate books that emphasize how much they are already their own people and how much they are choosing each other instead of just needing each other, right? I feel like I really needed to read a lot of romances about like, oh my gosh, he needs her so much. And that can be great, but I knew that for me, what was behind it was like, oh, that means he'll never leave because he needs her. And it's actually like way more powerful when it's like a constant wanting. Like I am a complete person, I'm an adult, but I choose you. Like I think there's like is it Toni Morrison? Is like, I didn't fall in love, I rose in it. Like I looked at you and I made up my mind. Like that's a beautiful quote. And I think the more stories I have found that kind of lean into that are really, really cool.
I'm having two thoughts. One is that if I talk about a trope that's not currently in the Legendborn cycle, people in the room, the Beehive will be like, this is in book 4. So every time I'm like, I'm going through what I've already talked about. But my recent favorite trope is what I and my editor called the trope turducken of Oathbound. So the last book, the most recent book in the Legendborn cycle, third book, Oathbound, now out in paperback. I think I might be legally required to say. But it came out last year, and there is a section in the middle of the book, and if you know, you know, that's a trope turducken. It's like 4 tropes in a trench coat, where something happens, and the character's in a certain situation, and you're like, oh my gosh, and then I like hit you with another one, and then another one, and then another one. Only one bed is like the end of a sequence of tropes. So by that point, we're all just like reeling, like, oh my God, what just happened? But what I love the most about that, and I won't get into too much, is that there is a masked reunion that is also a fight. And the way that it's written, and so I don't know if it's like masquerade meet cute, but I call it a fight cute. But it's sort of like a reunion. I didn't recognize you, and it's 2 characters, whatever the trope is called, where it's like 2 characters who maybe had met before. Now they're coming back together, and they've leveled up in this way, and so the fight is very compelling because they're on equal footing, but they're also masked.
Did you say they're on evil footing or equal footing?
They are on evil footing, but they're definitely on equal footing, and also there's it's a meet cute with a fight.
It's so good. I read it. I loved it. It was amazing.
In young adult and new adult fantasy, the stakes are often life and death, but the most interesting costs are often personal. For each of your worlds, what is the one thing magic cannot fix? And how does that limitation shape either your story overall or your protagonist's growth?
So in my Raybearer series, one quote that I really like is that it's like, I realized then that love had never fixed anyone. It had only given them the strength to try over and over and over again. And I love the idea that at the end of the day, no one can like heal your trauma but you. There's no power, divine, magical, even relational. At the end of the day, it has to be a choice you are making. And that doesn't mean you don't need help. I'm very against the bootstraps narrative. Like, the power was just in you all along. It's like, no, very much about collective community support. But you do have to have that agency. People can't heal you. You do have to want that, right? Because you can get addicted to the comfort of your traumatic position. If there's an old wound that's so old it feels like a friend, it can feel like being unmade to actually let it heal sometimes. So things like that.
Yeah, that's a great answer. I think in my book series and Legendborn cycle, a theme that keeps coming up over and over again is that like consequences from the difference between impact and intent. And I think where that gets interesting with magic is like, you may have accidentally magically done something, or magic may be part of the reason why you did a thing, or how you did a thing, but the impact does not. Like, magic doesn't diminish or erase or rewind the impact. And I think that's really important. So if the person felt a certain way about you while you did this thing, it doesn't matter that you heard there was a magical reason or a magical methodology. The impact of their harm to you is still something you as the perpetrator has to deal with.
I think for me, so in my book, it's high fantasy, secondary world, and the humans are a small community and they're subjugated by the Fae. So they're living in a world not meant for them, not built for them. They are at a huge disadvantage. They are human, they do not have magic. But the Fae and even the ogres, the other creatures on this world, they inherently have it. They inherently have that privilege. So Lore, my main character, she plots to steal magic from the Dark Fae and become the first ever witch. So she thinks when she gets magic, it's gonna make everything better. She'll be able to save her community. They'll be able to leave and rise up and for the first time have an actual rebellion where it doesn't end in almost everyone dead. And it takes her a long time to like come to grips with, okay, this actually didn't fix everything. And takes her a whole nother book to try to get to where she wants to be, so.
Okay, revisions. Ugh. They can be really challenging, especially for a series. How do you manage keeping your vision intact and all your plot points straight while working with your agents and editors?
Bold of you to assume that happens during, no. Ultimately, you do come up with a book that makes sense most of the time, hopefully. But I think it depends on how precious you were about your first draft, at least for me. I have found that revision can be much easier than drafting. I know for a lot of people it's the opposite way around. For me, not having words on the page is the most devastating hard part, and revising after, I feel like I'm just moving around blocks of like sandcastle buckets that I've already kind of filled. It's like, no, put you here and put you here, no, it's like slice that off, you know, that kind of thing. But yeah, I think for me, by the time I get to revision, the crux of the story is there. The one time that has happened, and then I decided to change a huge thing about the crux of the story. It was my second book, Redemptor, and that was very difficult. For those of you who don't know, in the editing process with publishing, you submit your first draft, and then you get an edit letter. And that's the developmental edit, and that's, you know, actual functioning parts of the story you're editing. You're not line editing or copy editing yet. And then after, the story is supposed to stay the same, and you have a copy edit, line edit. So I decided to basically revamp the structure of this book after the edit letter and developmental edit, and we were in line edits. And I was like, oh, I have terrible news for you, my publisher. And that can happen. But yeah, I think for me, drafting is way harder. So revision is a little, yeah.
Oh yeah, drafting is my enemy. I do not enjoy drafting. Part of it is because if you've been in this business and you've written multiple novels, the thing that you just did before you started drafting from a blank page is probably in your hands, fully copy edited, fully formatted. 12 people have touched it in some way, shape, or form. It's beautiful. It's got a beautiful cover, and you'll just be looking at that, and you're like, "Oh, my baby!" And then you look over at your blank page, and you're like, betrayal. It just feels, it's so hard. And because whatever you write in your first draft will also be really just clunky and odd, and you're like, oh gosh, do I know how to write a book? So that moment, that juxtaposition is pretty painful. To go from a beautiful, polished, finished book that's shipped out into the world to a blank page where you're like, my hand touched his hand, and then and the sun was there, and moonlight back up. It's just like it doesn't flow, and so that is a blow to you as the creator. It makes you question everything. So once you get over that period of time where you're on the floor, wondering whether or not you can do this again, then I think that for me, yeah, drafting is hard, but I love revision. I prefer revision. I keep everything straight in spreadsheets, tons and tons and tons of spreadsheets. I use spreadsheets in all sorts of ways to just track information, track commonality, track rules, make sure that I'm understanding and sticking with the character's main interest stated at the beginning of the book and showing how it evolves over time. And then the other thing that I like to do is just remind myself that if the words on the page, it doesn't matter how much effort it took to get those words down. If they don't work, they gotta go. And I think that's a thing that new writers especially get hung up on, is they're like, those are hard won. I fought for those words. It took me 2 weeks just to write those 50 pages. And then you have a real problem, because as you grow and as your characters grow and as your story gets more refined, it starts to need different things. And if you're trying to make that old draft fit with the new revelation, and you try and find the way to match it up, it can be very square peg, round hole. And then you kind of, if you talk about wasting, you waste a month, 2 months trying to fit together your old perception of what needed to happen with the revelation that's much, much better and more well earned. So I have to feel like you, Jordan. I'm like, I will get down to the almost the end of the process, and I look at that and I'm like, that's got to go. And my editors are always so surprised. They're like, you're ruthless. You will cut so much. I know it took you a long time to write it. I'm like, it's not in service to the book. Get it out of here. I can rewrite it so much faster now that I know what I have, as opposed to being precious about this particular set of sentences.
I complain about every step of the process. So when I'm drafting, I'm like, oh my gosh, drafting is the worst. I hate drafting. And then whenever I'm revising, I'm like, revisions are so hard. I hate revising. And I'm like, wait, do I actually like this at all? And truthfully, I do. But I would say I love when you're revising and you're looking at a paragraph and you're thinking, there's something about this that doesn't work, probably because it's from my first draft and it's actually trash. And when you find that perfect sentence, and it's just, okay, that's it, that's done, that's the one. I love that. That's what gets me going. That's what keeps me going. It's moments like that, and then you kind of forget about it and you read it again in another, when you're doing your past pages or something, and you're like, wait, I wrote that? That was me? And you can have that pride in your own craft. I love those. And then I also hate when I have to delete 5 chapters. I don't ever delete anything. I copy it and I paste it to a cuts folder. Because if I have to if it's gone, I wouldn't do it. I would never press the button. I put it there. I can go back to it and look at it later. So when that's gone, and then you're actually have to rewrite this entire scene because she can't go to this town, she has to go to this town, and also now they don't have a horse and they need one. It's a whole thing, but it works. Or they only have one horse, depending on the trope. So, yep.
That's an interesting one. How do you choose which books you pursue when you have more than one idea?
I'm gonna sit this one out because I'm writing in the middle of a series. If I told this crowd I was working on something else, they would probably follow me out the door. So no, I am writing the Legendborn cycle, and the next book is the Legendborn cycle next book. Like that's what I'm writing.
I think my problem is I have too many ideas and not enough time to write them. So I'm a huge believer in writing them down. If you have an idea, always write it down. Put it somewhere in your journal, your notes app, whatever, because it could be gold later. But do not follow that shiny new idea because you are contracted to write a book and you have to do it now. And I'm kind of a slow writer. I know there's so many other authors who publish, especially amazing indie authors who are publishing books every 3 months, every 6 months. I genuinely don't understand how that is humanly possible. I am a very slow writer. And so I do a lot of just writing them down. Every once in a while I have like a little bit I have to add to it. I do have a draft for this other idea I have, but oh, hello, audience.
Oh, never
I haven't been
mind.
able to see you at all this whole time, but yeah. And so, especially if you are a writer, that was my main problem for my entire life. Was I would get to the middle of a book and I would see a shiny new idea and I would go after it, and I never wrote the end. And once I decided to finally stick with a story, that was when I realized this is how you do it. This is how it's done. This is how there are authors out there doing it.
Yeah, I don't know how I'm gonna decide, because I got contracted for multiple series, and that was great, but now I'm in a position where I actually have a little freedom to decide which direction I want to go. It might just be a coin toss, y'all, because I don't know. It's really exciting, especially since I've decided to let myself hop around age groups a bit. Like Raybearer is very YA. I went and did Marvel for a while with Moon Girl, which is a little straddling genres. Middle grade now, but I love picture book ideas and adult ideas and and thriller and romance and all of this stuff. I do admire authors who have just committed to having a patchwork body of work. One author who's very dear to me is Shannon Hale, and she feels a lot of freedom to do that. Like, a lot of us grew up with like her Princess Academy in middle grade, but she's also written like Austenland, like an adult rom-com, and she's done Marvel Comics and all of this. So I do think it's cool to feel like you have that freedom, but you always wonder, am I weakening my reader base if I don't just consistently have the same age group and they know what they're getting from me, and because we come back to authors for that comfort. So no idea. I feel like you should answer this one, Claribel.
Me?
Yes.
Oh. Well, it's usually whichever one I really want to work on next.
Yeah.
I'm also contracted out until like 2031, so like
Nice.
I don't have much like you.
Nice.
I can't really think that far ahead.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit like, do you guys know the story of Michael Jackson and Prince?
No.
And the ideas. So Michael Jackson would get up in the middle of the night to record a song because he was scared God would give it to Prince. So I'm a little bit like that with my ideas. I'm like, I don't want to think about it too much because maybe one of my enemies will also think of it at the same time. And then I'll give it to them somehow. So I'm a little superstitious.
Spite is a wonderful motivator.
Yeah, you guys should
Wonderful.
look up their rivalry. It's excellent. Okay, so a lot changes from the time you get like your first idea for a book to when you're actually published. So what's one big thing about either like your writing process or your relationship with publishing even that has changed between when you were a brand new writer and now? Something you do differently or see differently?
I find that I am the gentlest critic I have ever been. I was the harshest, most pretentious critic in the world before I started like having all of my life be around what people think of my books, right? And knowing how much goes into even a mediocre book, it has made me a lot gentler. I still enjoy what I like. I still recognize excellence and really love it. But all of my desire to just drag a book through the mud if it's bad has just evaporated. And I think it's just because I have that empathy. I know that even with really prolific authors, you're putting a lot out there. And I appreciate that, and I appreciate that for the, enormous effort it is every time. So I'd say, like, as a consumer and writer of books, I think that's maybe been the most dramatic change, is my desire to put bad books in their place. I'm just like, there are always gonna be excellent books. The bad books are not a threat to the great books. They'll still be there. I'm way more frustrated when an excellent book goes unrecognized. That makes me way angrier than a bad book getting popular, because bad stuff, easy junk food stuff, has been popular for thousands of years, right? So that's probably the most dramatic change for me as a person.
For me, I started out as a bookstagrammer, and so I'm actually just a fangirl masquerading as an author, genuinely being between these two right now. I'm like, is this real life? Don't pinch me. And so I think I went from reading like 70 books a year to last year I read 14. And now I just have so much FOMO. I see all these books and I have not had time to read them because I'm writing. And I think I'm kind of sad about that. I used to know exactly what was in market right now because I was reading all of those books. I was consuming them all. And now I'm not even able to do that. So I'm just vibing. But I think that's my biggest one, is I can't read as much as I used to.
I'm trying to think of like what really has dramatically changed, and also is it like related to the fantasy element or the magical part of our work? And I mean, I think there's, for a lot of people will tell you, good folks who know more than me will tell you that the way that fantasy works when you're a person of color is that you're using magic to talk about power. And this is not exclusive. It doesn't mean that other types of authors are not doing that, but often, very often, people of color are using magic as a stand-in for a discussion about power, structural power, who has it, who gets it, how do you gain it, how is it taken away from you, who gets exploited for it as a resource, et cetera. And so I think for me, what I've been able to do over my 3 books is just really go harder and harder in that direction and feel really empowered by my readership in a lot of ways, because the elements of those parts of the stories that I write that are leaning into that are also the areas that my readers are most intrigued by and most interested in, and they love it. Like, I remember there was an early reader who read Legendborn before it was even ready to go into copy edits, who said, wouldn't it be interesting if instead of there being the scions inheriting the powers of the Knights of the Round Table, what if the tournament was a way for the Knight's ghost to select who gets the power? And it was this moment where I was like, that would break the entire book. It would break everything that I'm doing with Legendborn. Like if it becomes a like merit-based system where you have to earn the attention of an ancient ghost to then be selected, A, it's white dudes picking again, and 2, that takes apart so much of the argument that Legendborn is making, and it would dismantle the entire series, actually. It would now become something different, something very familiar, and something that you could pick up off of a fantasy bookshelf anytime in the last 15 years, right? And I was like, that is interesting, and now I'm realizing that I'm using magic to talk about power and to like trouble the concept of who gets it and why, and now and I stuck to my guns. It wasn't hard because it was so obvious, but it did make me really pause and go, I'm using magic in a different way. than perhaps that person is used to. And now I'm going to keep doing it this way, and I love it now. I feel emboldened because my readers are so attached to the way in which magic works in my books. And I just feel like that I'm getting bolder and bolder and having more fun with it as I go along.
I love that. That's the dream, right? Want to have more fun as we go on in this career. So we have a few pre-selected audience questions, but we have time for one more question from me before we get to those. I'd like to hear a little bit more about your current projects, what's next for you, and what you'd like our lovely audience to go out and pre-order or buy.
I'm currently seriously plugging this book, Heir of Prophecy. It is a new adult romantasy. It's the first in another duology. It's about a chosen one trope, actually, but I've turned it on its head. She's the heir to two opposing, conflicting prophecies, and we have two kingdoms who are fighting over her. It's a actually has really hot demons in it, and there's a prince of the underworld who keeps showing up in her dreams. And I think it's going to be a good time. It's a magical war college. She's conscripted into this university. There's guilds, and it's kind of a dark academia vibe with ghosts and uniforms, and they're real cute in them and everything. So, yep.
So most people know me for the Raybearer books, which are a duology with a companion novel. The Raybearer books are like a multicultural but like Afro-fantasy-centric Pangea empire ruled by an emperor who is immortal or gains immortality to one death for every person he anoints to his council. The Maid and the Crocodile is a companion book to that series in which I decided to explore the same world from the perspective of a maid. Because I wrote this big story with girls and black girls and crowns and they're empresses and they're this and they're that, and that's great, but I was like, yeah, with how many labor movements happened as a result of the COVID years, I was like, I was no longer interested in that world from the perspective of the wealthy and powerful. And so Maid and the Crocodile is set in the same world, but from that, and it's loosely based on Howl's Moving Castle, and the references are not subtle. Let's just say there's like a beautiful, useless wizard with long flowing locks who is very upset when he can't be beautiful. But the book I'm actually here to promote that's coming out in a few days is the beginning of my middle grade debut. It's called The Genie Game. It is a capitalist dystopia fantasy for children, and it's a comedy. The Genie Game, I know. I'll stick the landing, I promise. The Genie Game is set in an alternate reality version of the US that is run by 3 magical megacorporations who trap people in sentient retail buildings called bottles. And if you are trapped in a bottle, you become a genie, and you must grant wishes to earn wish energy for the corporation that owns your bottle. You can escape the Genie Game by developing enough points in the game to buy your freedom from the Hypno Mall, but that's the most expensive item, and there's lots of tempting items in the meantime to spend your points on. So you can deck out your bottle with all these cool things. Very much inspired by the generation raised by like The Sims and Neopets, where it's like, there's always big things you can save up for, or you could get these small, kooky, fun things. I am already shocked by how well children understand this book. Because I thought I was being slick, like maybe a little radicalization, maybe a little bit. Like the school visit I had yesterday, they were like, so why don't the corporations like use the military? He was like 10 to like make these people. I was like, I like you. Here's why. Militaries are expensive. Getting people addicted to products is not. And you make more money that way. Sometimes wars are more profitable. Anyway, didn't get into that. But that's The Genie Game. And it is a series, and it is actually available early here at BookCon. The official release date is a few days from now, but the Barnes & Noble here at BookCon, you can get it, and I'll be signing copies sometime today. I think maybe in an hour, I don't know. That's the Genie game.
I'll just go really quickly. I'm working on Legendborn 4, but currently what I'm doing is spending a lot of time talking to people about the Legendborn collector's edition, just because it's a beautiful book, but because my hands were involved in sort of every single selection and feature and design choice of that book. And the bonus content has Legendborn scenes that I've never talked about before, much less printed. And it feels like, if you know the fanfic world, the trope of like 5+1, like 5 things that happened and then 1 thing that didn't, or whatever, that trope in fanfic, that's the bonus content of the Legendborn Collector's Edition. And so I'd love to just talk about that for anybody who understands that reference. There's like five scenes or 5 chapters that are like remixed versions of the original Legendborn book, and then +1 that, so those are rumors. It's like those are rumored things that happened, and then 1 that definitely happened that is a never before seen scene in canon.
Can I
So
say
cool.
one thing really quickly?
Of course.
'Cause I forgot. I have a pre-order campaign going on right now. And if you buy through my local Black-owned bookstore, it's one of the oldest Black-owned bookstores in America, Marcus Books, you can get a signed copy of Era Prophecy and art prints. So it's a win-win-win-win all around.
Where is Marcus Books?
Oakland,
Okay.
California.
Okay, so for the audience questions, Jesse wants to know what your favorite part of building the world and magic of your novels is, and what is the most challenging?
I know we are limited time, so I'll answer quickly. I love making the rules, and then I love looking for the one moment where that rule is going to get broken or slightly bent, and figuring out who's going to do it. Often it's Bree, sometimes it's Sel.
I did not hear the question. What was it?
Oh, I said, what's your favorite part of building the world and magic of your novels, and what is the most challenging?
Oh, I'm a huge fantasy nerd, so I love world building. My favorite part is probably putting the rice literally on the paper and then drawing out the map. I have a lot of fun doing it.
I mean, my favorite parts are definitely moments I know will be wish fulfillment moments, like the kind I would have like really loved to live in when I was like a kid or a teenager or even a young adult. For me, those are like cozy found family moments. It can also be just like moments where you get to interface with a lot of like cool like fabrics or clothing. Like I love a transformation scene. I think the hardest moments are probably emotional moments that need to happen, but that I fear in real life. Like a lot of my books are known for like really found family friend bonds. And so when they need to fight, when they need to have a schism, I have to like psych myself up to write it. Because it's like my worst fear is like, what if I lose my best friends? Like I'm one of those girls who had the same best friend since I was 13. I'm 32. So the idea that like, oh my gosh, what if something happened that could really threaten that relationship is terrifying to me. But that's what you need in a story to like explore that conflict. And so those are the hardest moments for me.
Taylor wants to know if there are other genres or mediums that you're really excited to work in one day.
Dystopian. I have a lot of rage right now.
Yeah. Well, so I've been on some platforms pretty public about a big trauma that happened to me, which was deconversion from my religion of 20 years. And I would really like to explore that in the context of a thriller, because that is what it feels like. It's like leaving a matrix reality when the very platform of every way, every filter you put your experiences through, you slowly realize it's false. And I have not seen that explored in a lot of genre fiction especially. So I know that I have a deconversion book in me and it's going to be a big deal. But thrillers it's not really what I write. I think there's a thriller aspect to a lot of like YA fantasy and stuff, like the stakes and the building and the cresting and the falling. But that creeping dread of a thriller, especially if you already know what the main character doesn't know and you're waiting for them to figure it out, is really interesting to me. So I'd like to write in that genre at some point.
Like I mentioned, I used to work in theater. I was a visual artist for a long time, up to high school, and then in theater. Theater is a visual art form. I really, really miss working in that space. So I think I'm looking for an opportunity for that to happen, whether it's like graphic novel or something else. But I miss telling visual stories.
Okay, Sophia asks, what is it about writing YA new adult characters that appeals to you the most, and what do you hope readers most take away from these characters?
Appeals about writing YA specifically?
Yeah, like why do you write YA or new adult? Like what about the age range, I'm guessing they're asking, appeals to you about writing about them?
I just love coming of age narratives. It's something that your readers either aspire to or are currently going through or remember happening to them. It's this very huge formative universal experience. I do actually like literary fiction, but it can be really, it can be a little obsessed with ennui. Like, oh, I've been through my coming of age and now I have figured out the world is not as shiny as it was. What do I do with my boredom? Maybe I'll cheat on my wife. Like, that's a lot of literary fiction. And I have read a lot of really great literary thick books, but there's something so appealing about that coming of age narrative that keeps me coming back to things like YA as a writer and a reader.
I can say, I think writing, because I write new adult, it's kind of a little more fast-paced, sometimes with a YA plot feel, but you have adult characters, adult themes. And I'm really passionate about it. I feel like I write adult fairy tales for girls and theys and guys like me who didn't get to grow up reading the magical fantasy stories where the characters looked like them. And that's something, I think I was 26 years old the first time I ever read a fantasy book where the main character was black. I remember just closing it and just sobbing. And I was like, I want to do this, but I want to write it for adults who want that as well. So I write fairy tales for adults, and I'm very, very passionate about it. I love it.
I think what appeals to me is that with YA, and knowing that so many readers who read YA are adults, I was an adult reader, am an adult reader of YA, and it wasn't until I got online that I thought that I heard that people thought that was weird. I was like, what? Because to me, while the target audience is, like 12 to 17 or 12, whatever the age group is, upper YA is maybe 14 and up. The thing that to me makes a young adult novel is the internal growth arc of the character. Is that character finding out that they have the capability to do things they didn't realize that they could do? That's one, I think, for me, a requirement of YA. And then what I love about so much of our popular YA or common YA is that the character and the answer at the end is yes. You can do more than what you think you can do. You're capable of more than what you thought. And in fact, your character, meaning like your integrity, your character, your values, are the things that are going to help carry you through to success on the other side. And I just think that everybody needs that. Like everybody needs that reminder that you actually are inherently very capable and powerful.
Love that. Okay, final question from Jada. How have your own experiences and backgrounds specifically shaped the worlds you create?
Well, I am always going to talk about Bree's hair. Because I would definitely read fantasy books or young adult fantasy books and be like, okay, but her hair is doing what? Like, wait a second, what? But there was a monster, the goop got in the hair, and we're just supposed to just go home? Like, she's got to have a wash day. And then it's like, oh gosh, 11 o'clock, realizing you got to wash your hair, but you didn't plan to wash your hair. Like, that's a long night. It's even going to have time to dry. Like, for me, I was really committed to making her hair, and I was like, a protective style and blood marked for sure, because she's gone too, she knows now, like, we're not having the curls out. Like, go ahead and put that back. So I think like for me, that's the thing that I keep bringing to the table, and I love it when readers comment about that, because then I get to say, yeah, during copy edits, there was a period where I had her do a wash day at the end of Legendborn. It was like a healing, therapeutic moment. And the copy editor was like, okay, you said it started at this hour and then it ended this hour. Don't you think that's too long? And I was like, listen, it's tidy because it was one day. Look at all that hair. Like, I was like, no, it takes that long. And also she's going slow and using it to like get back to herself. So that's a relaxed wash day. You got music going on. Like, so to me, I think it's important to put those moments in there to remind us that this is a character who has a different life, body, hair, skin that makes her move through the world in ways that we haven't seen in fantasy before.
So that's exactly it for me as well. So I write high fantasy. So Lore in book 1, she gets basically taken. She doesn't have time to pack anything. She's at this castle, and she's like, so I have nothing for my hair at all. Like, what am I going to do? Because I'm over here like, okay, she needs products for her hair, even though it's high fantasy. There's a whole scene. She goes to the market. You know, they're like, oh, don't use those. They don't actually work, which is so real. And then in book 2, she goes underwater. Under the sea to a siren kingdom and has to deal with her hair. And it's a scene that I wrote with one of the male main characters where he's helping her deal with her hair. And I was like, it made me cry personally, but it's hands down one of my favorite scenes I've ever written. So hair is a really big part of my, and it always will be, because I've never read a fantasy book where I'm like, how are they just in the woods for like 3 weeks and they've never even brushed their hair, or like they don't have braids? Like, what are they doing? What's happening? Are they gonna have to shave it when they get home? Because
well, it's like a black girl with like curly hair that's loose. It's like he ran his fingers through her hair. No, he didn't. No, he did. His hand got stuck. Come on now.
My hair beats man's hand. It's no. I'm so protective of Annabeth's hair in the like Percy Jackson adaptations. First of all, I really love that new adaptation, but every time I'm looking at girls' braids, like, I guess it's the power of Athena that those are still clean after what you just went through. Look fresh. I'm happy for you, girl. Hair is also really important in my books. Honestly, Black girls getting pampered and treated with care is huge in my books. I talk to teens at school visits about how what is revolutionary feminist representation is going to change depending on what your experiences as a woman has been. So for a lot of white girls, they're going to see a lot of revolutionary representation in like, oh my gosh, I don't need a dress and nobody has to take care of me and I have a sword and I can do it myself. Cool, awesome. If you have been put in an ivory tower and told to sit pretty and you can't have agency, super empowering. So Black women in the US were made to work in the fields like animals and have the same workload as a man, right? So for revolutionary feminist representation for a Black girl might actually look like an ivory tower. It might look like being told, do not move a pretty little finger. You are so precious. What is valuable to us in this moment, what we want from you is your mind and your ideas, and we need to protect that, and we don't want you to get tired, right? That is enormously revolutionary for a lot of Black girls, right? It's even the same for a lot of like sexual ethics as well, right? Like a lot of the time, young Black girls were over-sexualized. So to write a story about a girl who is in fact quite innocent, you know, can be really revolutionary, right? So I think I am very protective of the Black girls in my stories, and that comes from my own life experience for sure. And it's huge, and it will be in all of my work forever.
Okay, thank you all for your wonderful answers, and thank you, audience. You were lovely. I hope you have a great rest of the con.